All right, so I'm going to graph f of x equal 3x minus 2. Now, we did that the first day of class. Remember that? And we did this the first day of class when I asked you to graph this. We used the t-table. Correct?
Yes.
All right, we use the t-table. And you can use the t-table again. But we also talked about the fact that this is when I replace f of x with what letter?
Y.
Y equals 3x minus 2. We also mentioned something we learned in the previous course, that this is also in what form? Huh?
Quadratic.
That's not quadratic, it's linear.
Functional notation.
Slope-intercept form.
Oh.
Slope-intercept form. You had that in Math 98. Slope-intercept form. All right, but you could easily graph this line using a t-table, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you did that on worksheet 1, I think, and maybe worksheet 2. But I want you to remember, I need you to remember how to graph a line using slope and intercept, when it's in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form means you have to have what letter by itself? Y. So slope-intercept form means y equals mx plus b. Okay, remember that?
Yeah.
Where m, the number you're multiplying the variable by, x, the coefficient of x, that m is your slope. And this b, that constant, is your y-intercept, not your x, your y-intercept. Remember, y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this. What is the slope over here? 3. Slope is 3. Y'all agree?
Yeah.
Remember the symbol for slope is little m? What is your y-intercept?
2.
Negative 2. Negative 2. So b is negative 2. Okay? All right. Now, I don't have a worksheet right now for graphing these using slope-intercept form, but I just want to remind you how to do it. At some point, I really need for you to know how to do it because it's going to help you next semester in college algebra. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to graph this line. Instead of using a t-table, I'm going to graph it using the slope and intercept. Okay? Watch how simple this is. Always remember, to graph a line, how many points do you need? 2. You need 2 points to graph a line, right? The y-intercept is a point, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's my y-intercept?
Negative 2.
-2. So along the y-axis, I'm going to put a dot where? -2 right here. Okay, so that's my y-intercept. That's where the graph's going to cross the y-axis. I need one more point. I'm going to use the slope to do that. What's the slope? 3. Write the slope as a fraction because the slope is rise over run. Remember those words? Rise over run. So 3 is the same thing as saying 3 over what? 1. All right, so here we go. So the rise is positive 3. Rise means going up and down, right? So if my rise is positive, I go which way? Up. My rise is negative, I go down. Run means horizontal. If my run is positive, I go to the right. My run is negative, I go to the left. Okay. So to find the other point, you always start at your y-intercept. So here's my y-intercept, right? Okay, so we're going to do the rise first. From this y-intercept, not the origin, the y-intercept. From the y-intercept, I go which way? Up 3. 1, 2, 3. Don't put a dot there. You just hover over that number 1. And then I go which way?
Right.
To the right 1, and there's your other point right here. And then you draw your line. So this is the line, y equals 3x minus 2. Now, you could have gotten this by just using a t-table. But I just want to remind you about slope-intercept. And we'll do another one like that later on. Yes?
Can you
Yeah.
pull that piece down? And what is under that B with the line?
What is under that B? The y-intercept.
Okay.
Y-intercept.
Thank you.
Huh?
That's a B, right?
Yeah, that's B.
Okay.
Y equals mx plus B. Mx plus B. Remember B? Y equals mx plus B. B is your y-intercept. Okay, now here's why I brought this up. Okay, listen carefully to this now. You remember a while ago we said that when I wrote it, this was f of x equal 3x minus 2?
Yes.
Okay? So if I did a t-table and I asked you to tell me when x is 1, what's my y value? When x is 1, what's my y value? You said 3 times 1 is 3. 3 minus 2 is 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which we saw right here.
Mm-hmm.
When x is, let's say, 2, what's my y value? 3 times 2 is
4.
6. 6 minus 2 is 4, which is 2, 4, 2, 4. 2, 4 is, I didn't draw it very well, did I? Right here. So I'm going to cheat a little. I cheated a little, so it goes through 2, 4. All right. Now, here's the idea. So this function notation, f of x, represents y, which can be represented using a graph, right? Okay, so listen carefully. So suppose f of x is 3x minus 2. Okay? And I asked you this. I asked you to find f of 1. Now, read this carefully. This does not say f times 1. This says f what? Of 1. Now, notice that this said f of x. So x is being replaced by what number? 1. So wherever you see the variable x, you're going to plug in what? 1. All right, so f of 1 equals 3 times what? 1 minus 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. So when x is 1, you found your y value. What's my y value? 1. That's what you found. So on the blank, you would say f of 1 equals what? 1. F of 1 equals 1. So if we want to find f of negative 3, let's say, f of negative 3, negative 3 is taking the place of what letter? X. So I want to find that y value. That's what I'm finding. When x is negative 3, what is that y value? Wherever I see the variable x, what do I plug in? Negative 3. So I get 3 times x. What's x? Negative 3 minus 2. Order of operations, I multiply before I subtract. So what's this?
Negative 9.
And what's a negative 9, negative 2?
Negative 11.
Negative 11. So in the blank, I'm going to have f of negative 3 equal blank. And what do you put in the blank? Negative 11. All right. Now, on my math lab, they want you to make some connections here. In terms of the graph, in terms of this graph right here, that f of negative 3 equals negative 11, what does that mean in terms of a point? So if I tell you f of negative 3 equals negative 11, what point does that represent?
Negative 3 is your x.
Negative 3 is your x.
And
Negative 11 is your y. That's the coordinate. That's the point this thing represents. So when x is negative 3, what's my y value? Negative 11. So if I were to look at this right here, look, x is negative 3, my y value better be what? And again, I didn't draw it very well, did I? Something like that. I should have used a ruler.
Next time. Next time.
All right, so that's what that represents. Over here, what point does this represent? X is 1, y is 1. Okay? Let's look at this one. If let's find f of, let's say 0. F of 0. How do you find f of 0? You plug in 0 for what? X. So you're going to say 3 times x. What's x? Minus 2. What's 3 times 0? And what's 0 minus 2? Negative 2. So you would say f of 0 equals what number? Negative 2. Okay? So if you were to look at that point that's on that graph, then that would mean that when x is 0, my y value is what? Negative 2. That's what that means. Okay? All right, let's look at this one. Suppose this time you're told that f of x is x squared minus 3. X squared minus 3.
That 1 square?
Huh?
Is 1 squared minus 3?
No, that's x squared minus 3. Let's find this. Let's find f of 2. How do you find f of 2?
2 squared.
Where we see the variable x, what do you plug in?
2.
2. So you plug in this into x. So you get 2 squared minus 3.
4.
What's 2 squared?
4.
And what's 4 minus 3?
1.
So you'd say f of 2 equals what?
1.
1. That's what you would say. So when x is 2, your y value is 1. That's correct. Let's find f of, let's say, negative 4. What would you do there?
Negative 4.
Where we see the variable x, what do you plug in?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. So you'd say, now remember you need parentheses there because x is negative this time. Negative 4 what?
Squared.
Squared minus 3.
16.
16 minus 3, which is
13.
13. So what's f of negative 4?
13.
13. Okay. So what we did here was we started talking about evaluating functions. So all this deals with evaluating functions. Okay, evaluating functions. That's what we're looking at. So you have a function. You're evaluating that function at a certain value for x. That's what you're doing. Okay? Now, let's look at this. Suppose I had this. Let's suppose my function is f of x equal the absolute value of x plus 5. The absolute value of x plus 5. Okay? You're not asked to graph it. You're not asked to do anything like that. All you're asked to do is this. Let's find f of, I'm going to change it from f of x. Let's change it this way. Let's write this as h of x. Because in my math lab, they're going to use different letters, but all of these represent functions. They still represent the letter y. Okay? So let's find h of 2. H of 2. So how to find h of 2? Where we see the variable x, what do you plug in?
2.
2. So it becomes the absolute value. You need the absolute value bar still. 2 plus 5. What's 2 plus 5?
7.
So you say the absolute value of 7 equals what? 7. So in the blank, you'll have this, and what do you put in the blank?
7.
7. That means that when x is 2, what's my y value?
7.
7. All right, let's find h of negative 6. H of negative 6. So again, where we see the variable x, what do you plug in?
Negative 6.
Negative 6. So it becomes negative 6 plus what?
5.
5. All right, now remember, you do what's inside the absolute value bars first. So what's negative 6 plus 5?
Negative 1.
Negative 1. Don't throw away the absolute value bars. What's the absolute value of negative 1? Positive 1. And so in the blank, you'd say h of negative 6 equals what? 1. And that's all that is. Okay? That's all that is. All right, and I want you to take out your calculator. Take out your calculator. So this was number 3. Write this one as number 3 that we just did. And write this as number 4. Take out your calculator. Let's suppose k of x this time is 1.2x squared minus 3.4x plus 6.3. All right, so k of x is 1.2x squared minus 3.4x plus 6.3, okay? All right, and you want to find, let's say find k of 2. All right, so again, where we see the variable x, what do you plug in?
2.
2. So I'm going to put parentheses, so look what you write. You're going to write this. 1.2 times 2 squared, right? Yes? Okay. Minus 3.4 times 2 plus 6.3. Use your calculator with this. So take your calculator out, and you, in the order which you see is the order you type it in. So look, you just say this. You say 1.2 times in parentheses 2 close raised to the raise is that little arrow, that little arrow right here. So say raised to the, and what power?
2.
Second, minus 3.4 times, and you can just put parentheses, you don't have to say times, 2, close the parentheses though, and then plus 6.3. If you use your calculator correctly, you should get what y value?
4.3.
4.3. That's what you should get. 4.3. You say 1.2 parentheses 2 close parentheses squared. So you raise it to second power. Angela, can you show where? Do you know where the raise is? Okay. Minus 3.4 times 2 close the parentheses and then plus 6.3 and then press equal. So if you don't know how to use your calculator, make sure just ask someone on the side of you if theirs is kind of like yours. All right, but for that one, use your calculator for that one. Use your calculator. Press equal. All right, now let's find this one. K of 4.3. K of 4.3. Same thing, right? You're going to say K of 4.3 is 1.2 times what? 4.3 squared minus 3.4 times what? 4.3 plus what? 6.3. Put in your calculator. So what do I type in first?
1.2.
1.2 times, just put parentheses, 4.3 close, but that's got to be raised to what power?
2.
The second, just like this, minus 3.4, and if you want to put parentheses, or you can just say times, right? 4.3, close the parentheses, and then what?
Plus 6.3.
Plus 6.3, and you press equal, and you should get 13.868. Is that what y'all got? Okay. So on my math lab, there is one where there's a decimal involved that's quadratic. So I just wanted to remind you how to do this. Okay. All right. Now we're going to talk more about this next time, but also next time we're going to start talking about factoring.
What?
Factoring. Most of this course, hold on guys, most of this course is going to involve factoring. So we're going to start talking about factoring next time.